Hello everyone, welcome back to the Microsoft Azure Virtual Networking series. In the last video, you were briefly introduced to Azure Virtual Networking. In this video, we will get hands-on with Azure Networking. We'll walk you through creating a virtual network, setting up a network security group, creating a virtual machine, and we will use this virtual machine to test connectivity. So, without further delay, let's get started. First thing we have to do is to log into the Azure Virtual Networking. To Azure Portal. Here is the Azure Portal. So if you do not have access to one, it's very easy for you to create a trial account for yourself so that you can be able to go along as we practice or as we click through the lab. So first, let's create a virtual network or VNet. Recall in the first video, I said virtual network is the same thing as VNet. So we'll be using VNet or virtual network interchangeably. So now currently I'm in my Azure portal, and then I'll just go to the subscription. I'm already there. I'll go to resources, and in the resources, I'm going to click create a resource or create. Now, what type of resource do I want to create? I'll be creating a networking resource. And then we'll select virtual network. Under virtual network, click create. So here, as usual, we are required to select our resource group. And we're going to create one very quickly. Then we'll call it VNet underscore ROG as underscore resource group. Then we'll give a name for the virtual network. We can call it my first VNet. And then one other important thing is the region where we want this virtual network to be hosted. So I will leave it as West Europe. You can select a region or location that is closer to your users if it's a production environment. Then we'll click next. So now security, let's leave this as default for now, and then we click next. And when it gets to the IP address, we have to select the IP address. So for this demo, we'll use the default setting. Let's leave it as default. If you notice currently you have an IP address space that has been assigned to you, which is a /16. And then you have a subnet that has been created from this address space, a /24. So we're going to leave it as that. And then let's just make it simple. We click review and create. Then it's going to do a run through to check that everything is fine. And then once it's fine, that's validation. Then we can click create. So once the virtual network is created and we can see it, the next thing we want to do is to create a network security group. As we discussed, the network security group is like firewall that allow you to block, that's deny or permit access to or from a resource group within Azure, within your Azure network. So this virtual network has been created. Let's go to the resources. Here we are in the resources. These are all the properties of the virtual network or my first VNet. So now the next thing we want to do is to create a network security group, right? So creating a network security group, we can just go above here and search for network security group. Yeah, network security groups. Select that. None exist for us for now. So we're going to go ahead to create one. Click the create here or click create network security group down here. And then as usual, we're going to select our resource group again. So let's pick the same resource group that we have created earlier. And then we'll give it a name. Let's give it a name like see my first NSG. My first NSG. So let's keep everything my first. And here, what we just do after giving a name and we have selected the region, same West Europe as the VNet, the next thing we just click review and create. You notice the next thing, the if we are to go next is just to target. But let's go with default setting, review and create. So once we are done creating the network security group, so the next thing we want to do is to create an inbound security rule for RDP. So now the validation is successful. I will click create. This will take like few seconds to complete. Okay, why this is going on? Okay, we are done. Now we can go to the resource as well. Now these are also the properties of NSG. These are the various settings that you can put in place, including monitoring, automation, and other settings that you might have for a network security group, right? Remember, it's like a firewall. So now, network security group, like we said, is like firewall that control traffic or control the flow of traffic to and from your Azure resources, right? You see two sections here. We have the inbound security rules and then the outbound security rules. Inbound security rules are rules that control the flow of traffic from the internet or any other resource or any other virtual machine into Azure, into a resource within this virtual machine or within this virtual network, right, or within Azure. That is inbound. Inbound means incoming traffic from anywhere to a particular resource that this NSG is attached to. And then the outbound security rules are rules that controls the flow of traffic from the resource using this particular network security group to the outside world, either outside of itself. So now the rule we want to create is inbound security rule for RDP. So meaning when RDP is being initiated, traffic is being or request is being initiated from any computer to the resource that either to the virtual machine that will be using this NSG. The rule we want to be able to either allow it or deny it. So, but this rule we want to create is to allow. If you notice right now, based on the rules that we have under each section for inbound, you notice there's nothing like RDP here. So by default, not all ports are open. In fact, the ports that are open or services that are open is limited. So you have to specifically permit or deny a particular traffic. Any port or protocol that is not already created or that is not created within the rule automatically will be denied. So now let's move on. Now for us to create, now if you notice we cannot create anything here. This is just like an overview or at a glance view of what NSG rules look like. So for us to create a rule under the inbound rule, so we have to go to settings under network security group. We go to settings, then we select inbound security rules. So now here are the rules that we have currently that come by default. The first rule here is allowing VNet, is allowing traffic. That's VNet, allow VNet inbound. It's allowing traffic from any IP and any protocol. That's from any port number and any protocol with any IP from within this virtual network to any destination network is allowed. And then you have another one here for load balancer, and is also allowed. While you have a deny all rule below, anything below this deny all rule will be automatically denied, because this deny all rule is catching any and every and any port or protocol that it sees. So if you want a service to be allowed, then it must be above the deny all rule, because the rule travels from top to bottom, right? From top to bottom. Keep that in mind. So now we'll create an inbound rule to allow remote desktop protocol traffic to our virtual machine. We are yet to create a virtual machine, but let's create a rule down. We'll click add at the top here, top navigation pane, and then the source is going to be from any. The source is going to be from any, and then that's is then the source port will also be any. This asterisk is signifying any. Then talking about destination, we are going to set destination to any as well. We'll leave it as any. But destination port or port or range, or destination port range, instead of leaving it as this, we'll set it as 3389. That is the port number, TCP port number for RDP traffic. We can choose to use another port number as well. However, if we choose to use another port number, there are extra steps that must be taken for it to take effect. So now the service type that we are creating is custom. We can as well choose between the default setting here. There's an RDP port here. If I choose RDP, it's going to give us the same port number, but um, let's leave it as default. And then the action, the protocol that we're going to be using here is a TCP protocol, and the action is allow. We want to allow this particular traffic. We want to allow the request to the virtual machine that will attach this NSG to. And now the priority here, we can leave the priority as it is. Remember, we said for this rule now to take effect, it must be above the deny all rule. So which means the lower the number, the higher the priority of that particular rule that we have created. Now we're going to change this name and call it allow RDP. Allow RDP inbound, right? Allow RDP inbound. You can give it a description, but this is not compulsory. Just click add. And now the rule has been created, is right here on top. Remember that the rule travel from top to bottom. So once you initiate a request, the NSG will check its rule from top. If it hits rule, the first rule, it will not travel down anymore. But if the first rule does not match, he moves to the next, he moves to the next, he moves to the next until he find a match, right? That is the way the rule work from top to bottom. Now that we have created our NSG, the next thing we want to do is to create a virtual machine that will attach this network security group to. So now let's go back to the subscription, or we can search here as well, virtual machine. Search for virtual machine, and here is one. So we also do not have any VM because this is our first lab that we'll be doing with regards to Azure networking. So we are going to click create new virtual machine. Okay, so here same thing, apply, select your resource group, give the virtual machine a name. So we can also call the virtual machine, we can call it my first VM. Okay, my first VM. So let's maintain the same name nomenclature or naming convention for all everything that we are doing, so it's easy for us to identify what they are for. Now for the other settings, I'm just going to be able to save the credit that we have, considering that we have limited credit. We're going to select standard or basic settings. Now the operating system we'll be selecting here is Windows Server. We can choose Windows Server 2019 or 2022. Anyone will work. So, and then every other setting, okay, uh, let's change the subscriptions that we have here, select all size, and then let's pick this is for lab purpose, so we'll be picking this and we'll click next, or select. Now you are required to specify the administrator password that you'll be using to log in into this virtual machine. So let's create a username and a password. My first AD, my first admin, right? So my first admin. You can use any name, right? So now give it a password, and then the password is going to be okay. Inbound port. Now here we are going to select here. We are going to select. Let's see. Uh, Allow selected port. So for us to be able to select what we have created, we choose none, right? We choose none for now. Choose none for now, and then uh, now we'll click next. We scroll up, see that we have different. So we'll click next, just to minimize our cost, as I said. So we are going to change the disk to a standard SSD. This is just a test. For production environment, depending on what you want to do, you want to ensure that you are using, you go with best practice and then with what will work for you. So this is a test. This is for test purpose. That's why we are not going to be picking something high end. We are not going to be using the machine for anything, any heavy workload. So we click next to go to networking. Now in the networking, you notice here it has already selected the VNet that we created, my first VNet, and then this is the subnet that has already been created. So we select it and leave it as default, and then the next thing we want to do is already asking us here NSG NIC, that's network interface card network security group. So we can select advanced. When we select advanced, we'll be able to select the NSG that we created earlier. So let's drop down this and we'll select my first NSG. Then let's select it. So the my first energy already have a rule that we have applied. So that rule will automatically apply to this virtual machine. Then delete, this is a setting that allow us, once we delete the virtual machine, it automatically delete the public IP that is associated with it. And then we can click next, or here you can just click review and create. What we are concerned about right now is majorly the networking, which has been configured. So here, this is the summary of the settings that we put in place for this virtual machine. We just go ahead and click create. Okay, we'll pause the video a while and then come back once it is ready. Now that the virtual machine has been deployed, the next thing we're going to do is to test connectivity into this virtual machine. So let's go into the resource, and here is our first VM, that's virtual machine that we have created. We are currently on the overview page, and to connect to this virtual machine, we are going to be using RDP to connect to it. Remember that we created an RDP service port on the NSG to be to allow RDP connection to this virtual machine. So on the overview page, we're going to click connect. We have option to click just connect. When you click this connect, it's telling you it's going to be using the standard RDP protocol to connect, or we can connect via Bastion. So what we are going to use is to use RDP. So we'll click connect. And on the connect, we have the option to download the remote desktop protocol file. It's a very small file that you download, and then you can click it to launch the remote desktop connectivity or connection to this virtual machine. So I can either do this, or I can copy this and then open remote desktop application, type RDP, and it's going to bring it up. This is the it's just space. So it's the IP of this virtual machine that I want to connect to. I will be using this account. So click connect, and then I can type in the password for the virtual machine. Okay, click yes. Yeah, we are into the virtual machine that we just created. So this proves that the RDP service that we created earlier is working. So, and this wraps up this particular episode. What we want to do now in order to save the resources or to save our subscription credit is to do a bit of cleanup. Let's go to the resource group that contain all the resources that were created today. Go back into the subscription, and then go to resource groups, and we select the resource group. VNet RG is where we store all the resources we created today. So what we'll just do is to click delete resource group. Delete resource group, confirm the deletion, and click delete. So it's going to delete everything in this resource group. Recap: in this lab, we created a virtual network, we configure a network security group, we deployed a virtual machine and tested connectivity. So I will encourage you to practice these steps, and you'll be on your way to mastering Azure networking. Thank you for following along, and don't forget to like, subscribe, share this video. If you have any question or suggestion, leave them in the comment below. Stay tuned for more Azure tutorials and hands-on lab.